let's just go now. Let's go. Hello, mate. Here you go.
Thank you very much. Welcome to episode 3 of season 2 of the #1 wildlife and adventure show, Gone Feral.
This week we have another 2 films to share with you.
Yep, and our first film is about us trying to photograph one of our all-time favourite species. The Isle of Mull off the west coast of Scotland is a notorious hotspot for otters. It's bloody riddled with them, and anyone with half a brain knows that Mull is the place to go to see these beautiful creatures. We're not going to Mull though. In fact, that's the ferry over there, and we don't want to pay for it. So we're going to try our luck here on the mainland. Otters are these things, and those things, and this fella. They are mustelids, and the Eurasian otters we have in the UK are one of 13 different species found worldwide. They have sweet faces, but are vicious little buggers with powerful jaws and sharp teeth, which is why they're able to prey on all manner of fish, eggs, small mammals, and hard-shelled crustaceans like crabs and lobsters. They are naturally quite elusive animals, and finding them on the mainland wasn't going to be easy.
Luckily, we'd had a tip-off from an old friend about a section of coastline where otters had been seen in previous years.
So we spent an afternoon doing a recce to see if there were any signs that the otters were still here. And Harry got off to a good start.
This is a great sign. This is a crab carapace, the main body shell of the crustacean, and it could be the remains of an otter's dinner. There's no guarantee though, because crows and gulls also eat crabs.
And then the thirsty boy found another good sign.
So we've found a freshwater stream. Well, it doesn't taste great, but it's critical in a habitat like this to support otters. That loch over there is salty, and the otters can't drink that, so they need this fresh water.
And as we reached the end of the loch, I found something very exciting. The crab remains and the freshwater source are absolutely brilliant. They show that this area could, in theory, support otters. But what we've just found shows that otters are actually here. This here is a big pile of otter poo, or spraint. Now this stuff here, this browner, lighter, slightly drier stuff, this is older, but there is some dark stuff here as well, almost black, which means it's fresh. And if you give it a sniff, yeah, it smells really fishy and quite sweet. This is 100% otter.
First thing in the morning, we returned.
We've arrived at 4:30 this morning. This will give us the best chance of sighting an otter.
This is because otters tend to be mainly nocturnal, so just before dawn broke, we carefully started moving towards where we'd seen signs of otter activity yesterday. And amazingly, we spotted one pretty much immediately.
We've just spotted the otter. He's dead still here, and the otter's now swimming along the side of this bank.
The challenging terrain meant that to stay quiet, we had to stay put and hope that the otter would come to us. And we got very lucky. The photo we got is okay, but nothing special with the composition or behaviour or lighting, it's just okay. We didn't see the otter again, so we made our way back to the car.
This area of shoreline was pretty much always in shadow, not the best for photography, and the limited access to the shoreline meant the risk of disturbing the otter was too high for our liking. So we had to try our luck elsewhere.
We already had some luck this morning, but we thought we'd check here on the way back.
But when we arrived, because of all the camper vans, because it's midsummer, we didn't hold out a whole lot of hope. But Harry spotted an otter already.
Before all the happy campers woke up, it seemed like this otter was enjoying the loch to herself. To avoid spooking her, we waited for her to dive before edging closer to the shore.
Let's just go out.
We continued our little game until we were near the shoreline, where all we could do was wait.
So normally we're on like high-speed continuous, it can go bang, 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 bang. But if we go on silent and continuous, we lose the frames per second, so it's not quite as quick, but it's far, far quieter. That's also why when we're doing focusing and anything like that, we've set our cameras up so they don't make a beeping noise, because that could also disturb the wildlife.
Even though we'd taken the time to set our cameras up properly, the otter rudely headed out the opposite direction and didn't come back. Another failure.
So we set our alarms for 3 in the morning, again.
Good morning. We've got some great light at the moment. It looks absolutely superb.
It was a beautiful, still morning, and the surface of the loch was glassy like glass, making it easier to spot animals breaking the surface.
Okay. Yeah, the otter's over there. Okay, when I said there was an otter over there, I was wrong. There's two otters coming our way.
And then, as per usual, the otters disappeared. It was high tide though, and there was still a chance they'd come back out for low tide.
The tide is going out, which is a good thing, because when the tide's out, the fish and all the other prey for the otters is concentrated into smaller channels, which means the otters prefer it, because they don't have to swim as far to find food.
While waiting though, we did get a chance to appreciate all the bird life here.
A female goosander was just slowly swimming past, got closer and revealed 6 chicks, 2 of which were on her back. As the female goosander and her chicks got closer to those gulls over there, they sensed danger and they sped up and raced past them. It's brilliant to watch.
While Harry practiced his profession, I spotted an iconic Scottish species.
Holy moly! So a white-tailed eagle just turned up, flying that way, and as it went past the pylon, some peregrine falcons that have been perching there came off and just started dive bombing it. That was amazing. They've chased it off now. The eagle's gone, long gone.
By late morning, all the local campers had woken up, and there was too much disturbance for the otters to return. So we left, defeated again.
We continued our 3 AM starts for days on end with absolutely no luck before we had to return back south. Bugger.
Right, let's be honest, that was a little bit disappointing. But it's been a couple of months and Harry and I have been saving our pennies. So we're going to head back to Scotland because we have unfinished business. Good morning, and it's a misty one. The loch is there if you can just about see it. When the fog clears, we might have a chance of spotting an otter. Come on.
The visibility was shocking, but we booted up and got ready anyway.
We hoped that sending up the electric bird thing would show us that the fog was blowing over. It wasn't.
Who cares though, we'd put too much time into this to fail, so we ventured out anyway. And then, after spending all morning looking, we failed.
Well, we didn't see any otters. Never mind. Oh, this is getting very frustrating now. Come on.
The next morning, the conditions couldn't have been any better. Everything was perfect. The tide was out, the water was still, and we were more goddamn determined than ever. But the god of wildlife photography's twisted sense of humor meant that yet again, we'd failed to get the encounter we needed.
Oh man, f***'s sake.
The following morning, though, cameraman Scott rang whilst we were driving by a busy town.
He's spotted an otter near this town as we've been driving through, so I'm just gonna quickly pull in here. Okay, it's go time, go.
Okay.
You got it.
This has taken us so long. If we can get this otter, this will be a miracle. Take this. Okay. There it is. Look at the size of it. Huge. He's a dog otter. Oh my God.
We quickly got into position and fired off a few frames.
This huge male otter then worked his way down the coast before disappearing into his holt. The shots weren't that impressive, but we were more excited by the fact that we now knew where to come to tomorrow on our final day in Scotland.
That was brilliant.
Oh, so good. Come on.
On the morning of our final day, we were so excited that we forgot our boots. There was no time to get them though. The big fella was already out fishing.
When he briefly came onto shore, I managed to capture this photograph. Look at the size of him. He is absolutely the biggest otter I've ever seen.
When Brutus decided to head back out, we waited for him to dive, and then quickly set our footwear to attack mode before clambering down to the shoreline.
The chunky boy then came back into shore again, this time with a fish, and we were in the perfect position to capture it.
So I'm trying to get some photos where I'm not zooming all the way in, so I can show a bit more context, because there's some beautiful lights of the town and the harbour and the ferries and things over there. So I want those in the photo too.
So by zooming out a bit, I managed to get this. By showing the otter with the pastel pre-dawn colours of the town and ferry behind it, the image has a real sense of time and place. Well, who'd have thought, after all that, we have our best mainland otter encounter on the edge of a town. Oh, for goodness sake. Not quite how we expected it, but mission accomplished.
To be honest, we should have just gone to the Isle of Mull, shouldn't we?
But I do feel like the photos we got, they feel more earned. And when we look back at them, we'll remember that adventure and all those 4 a.m. starts just to try and see a bloody otter. Anyway, all the otter footage at the start of that film was shot by our friend Scott, who's a professional wildlife camera operator. So we thought it would be fun to put him on the other side of the camera for a change and ask him a few questions. Throughout this season of Gone Feral, we've been very lucky to have some industry experts along with us to help shoot our films. And one of these experts is Scott Abraham. Scott is a full-time wildlife camera operator and has a big camera and stuff, which means he's really good. As well as helping shoot Gone Feral, Scott has also worked on smaller, less premium indie productions, like BBC Springwatch. And earlier in the year, as spring turned to summer, Scott filmed a sequence for the Watches all about a pair of breeding white-tailed eagles, based around his local loch in Argyll, Scotland, which is why we've plonked him on a rock to ask him all about his experience with these birds. Why did you choose to film white-tailed eagles?
Because, I mean, they're such an iconic bird. I think they're absolutely magnificent. They're the largest eagle that we've got in the UK. I don't know, they were almost like the rulers of the loch. Everything would respond to what the whitetails were doing.
White-tailed eagles mainly hunt and eat fish, but also prey on mammals, other birds, and scavenge carrion. This unfussy diet is why they are rulers of the loch. When the eagles are out, everything else is on alert. Okay, so you knew you wanted to do a film about the white-tailed eagles, but how did you find the eagles, or did you know about them before you pitched the idea?
I found out about the eagles through a local photographer friend, and I knew there's a lot of whitetails in Argyll, which is where I live. And if you understand the environment that they're often living within, and you just stay out and spend the time sort of wrecking locations, they're pretty big birds. So if you know where to look, they're pretty easy to spot, to be honest.
How big are they?
Pretty big. I mean, they've got a wingspan of 2.5 meters, so it's hard to miss that if you see it flying through the sky.
What's your wingspan for comparison?
I don't know, not 2.5 meters. That's a wingspan like 1.5 of me, so that's pretty nuts.
Although easy to spot, getting close to them responsibly isn't straightforward. So you'd found these eagles, and then how did you get in a position to film them?
They're a Schedule 1 protected species, so to go within 400 metres of a nest site in breeding season, which is between, I think, January to September, you need a licence. You have to apply to, in Scotland, it's Nature Scotland who give out those licences, and they're quite careful with them because there's sadly quite a lot of raptor persecution still, which goes on within the UK and especially within Scotland.
Raptor persecution, which is illegal, is when birds of prey are deliberately harmed or disturbed, often in an attempt to benefit unnaturally high game bird populations for blood sports. White-tailed eagles actually went extinct in the UK in 1918, when the last one, up on Shetland, suddenly passed away, due to being shot. Thankfully though, Norway still had some, and in the 70s we began putting some back into Scotland. The trouble is, white-tailed eagles don't breed until they are 5 or 6 years old, and nests are often unsuccessful. So this reintroduced population was very slow to grow, and still at risk of extinction. So 2 more populations were reintroduced in the 90s and late 2000s. And now in Scotland there are over 100 territorial pairs. More recently, some white-tailed eagles have also been reintroduced in England, on the Isle of Wight. This species is still highly at risk though, especially as they are so easily disturbed from their nesting activities. Did you witness any disturbance yourself while you were filming the eagles?
Yeah, I did witness quite a lot of disturbance. I saw, I think 4 times I had people walk very close to the nest and walk underneath it, and it wasn't purposeful disturbance, it was often just ignorance, they don't know the nest's there. But there was also other times, like there was a time where quite close to the nest, some people set off some fireworks and I watched the eagles fly off. It only needs to happen a few times for the eggs to get cold and then the chicks to fail.
Did you learn anything new about this species that you didn't know before?
That's a good question. I think I definitely did learn new stuff. I think any time that you spend like a significant amount of time filming an animal or whatever, you just get to understand that species a little bit better. I genuinely did feel like they had quite a lot of emotion in what they were doing. They were very invested in trying to raise this chick. Sadly the chick actually, the nest actually failed in the end. There's a significant period after it failed that they just stayed around the nest. They didn't want to give up on it. They would still go back and they would still sit on the eggs, and it seemed like they knew that it wasn't, it'd gone the period of time, the 38-day incubation period that the chicks have. They've not got it as easy as you would imagine, and that's definitely something that I learned as I was sort of filming them, spending more time with them.
Although sad, it isn't uncommon for white-tailed eagles to have unsuccessful nests. Around 30% of nests fail. How did you feel, and what was going through your mind when the nest did fail in the end?
Yeah, I was pretty gutted when the nest failed. You try as a wildlife filmmaker to try and not get too connected to these animals. If you're there to film behaviour, you just have to film what's happening. It's difficult to not get some level of attachment, especially when it's like an individual pair that you're following and you've spent quite a few months following them and filming them most days. I was really rooting for them, and so when they failed, I was pretty gutted. On a personal level, I really wanted them to have chicks, but maybe in some ways it's a better film because it'll maybe educate a few people about whitetails, and that it's not all great for them. Like they do fail, and quite often it's down to us. Like it's human disturbance, probably one of the biggest reasons why nests fail.
The harsh reality of the low breeding success rate wasn't surprising, but still somber nonetheless. But for all the lows, there are also the significant highs that only nature can deliver.
So which bit of behaviour was the most rewarding to film?
The first time that I was in the hide and the eagle came onto the nest, and I was just like, properly like, holy shit, holy shit, holy shit. I was very close to it, closer than majority of people ever will be to an eagle, and the female came onto the nest and was sort of calling and calling and calling, and that noise, when you hear a lion roar, it sort of, you feel it in here, and it's kind of something quite primal about it. Very much felt that same thing when the eagle was calling, and it sort of sat there, did some nest building, and then the male suddenly came into shot, and yeah, that was a pretty special moment. That was quite cool.
Would you say that's the bit that's going to stick with you the most, the initial encounter?
Definitely, yeah. It was really, really cool. That first time it flew into the nest was awesome.
I mean, his eagle footage is all right, I guess. Nothing that special.
Yeah, I know, we could have probably done better, but it's nice to make him feel like he's doing well, It was a shame, though, that those eggs didn't make it this year, but maybe next time they'll give it another go. Next time, Harry gets groovy.
And Ed, actually, I have no idea what he's doing there.
See you then.